Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm happy to be with you this morning. Here we are in the middle of the week, talking about some good stuff in Luke. And today I have a story from Luke chapter 16, and I'm going to talk about verses 9 to 13. But before I do that, let me set the context for this. Because Jesus tells a story about a rich man and his manager, and he talks about how the manager was wasting the rich man's money and what he did about it, and how he was changing the books in order to make it look better for the manager's standpoint. And then he finally says here, when we get to verse 8, the rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of the light. So that's the story. You can go back and read it. But here's what I want to look at today. Verse 9. It says this. Here's the lesson. This is the lesson of the story in verses 1 through 8. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? Here's the punchline. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. You know, Jesus says a lot about money. I know a lot of preachers talk about money. I don't tend to do that. Maybe I should. Um, I just don't. But Jesus said a lot about it. And here's one of those things. And he's very, very emphatic. You know, Jesus has a way of teaching, and he's never subtle about anything. If it's important to Jesus, you'll find it in the Bible. He'll tell you. If it's not important to Jesus, you may not find it in the Bible, even if it's important to you. So we need to focus on what did Jesus focus on? And in this passage, he's talking about a shrewd man who manipulated things to make him look good for his employer. And it says you have to admire the dishonesty of the guy. Now, that's a crazy statement to make. I mean, why would I admire the dishonesty? But it's not the dishonesty that I admire. It's the way in which he goes about it and how consistent he is in what he's doing. And that's the story. But the interpretation of the story is something very real to you and me. And let's take a look at it again, just pieces of it. The first part is use your worldly resources to benefit others. Why is it that we think so many times what is mine instead of what is mine that God gave me? You see, we like things and stuff in our culture. We almost worship it. Some do. But it says here that use your worldly resources to benefit others. That's why you have them. It goes on to say another piece here. Then when your possessions are gone, meaning when you're dead, you'll have eternal possessions. Jesus is tying together. Here's the hard reality of it, folks. He's tying together our attitude towards our personal worldly things and our expected life, expected life after death. And there is a relationship. Who you are now, unless you totally repent and you're not a Christian, is who you're going to be later. People don't get spiritual just because they get older. Sometimes they get worse. And I don't know where you are in your walk with God, but I do know every one of us has some material things that we could share. And then he has this crazy thing. He says, if you're faithful in little things, you'll be faithful in large things. But if you're dishonest in little things, you'll be dishonest with bigger things. And if you're untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? An awful lot of people want to be important. Even those who say they don't want to be, many of them really do. And they want to be responsible for a lot. Particularly younger folks who want the top dog job right at the beginning. And they don't understand that God is building a life in you of responsible actions towards others in first little things and then bigger things. You know, in the colonial days, if you apprenticed as a cabinet maker, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but, and I hope you know what uh, dovetail joints are about. If you don't, they look like a dovetail. I don't know how else to say it right now. But an apprentice cabinet maker would spend 7 years and do nothing but make dovetail joints. He had to know how to do that piece right and well before he could go on to something much bigger. The same is true with our lives. And then finally, because I'm running out of time, we get to the main point. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Sorry, folks. I didn't say it, Jesus did. You can't be obsessed with your money, or as some people say, careful. I don't mean not being wasteful. You can't be so obsessed and hang on so tight to your money and things and serve God. If you think you can, you're confused and you're only deceiving yourself. Now, don't think this means you got to go out and get rid of everything. It just means you have to be open to knowing where your things came from, where your life comes from, and who owns it. God is the owner of everything we have. What do you think about it? I hope that encourages you. Have a great day. If you have a need, call us. We'll do what we can as fast as we can. I appreciate you sharing your time. I'll be back tomorrow with another thought from this book of Luke.